Hey there, interwebs, and to my viewers in the Northern Hemisphere, happy first official weekend of autumn. Many of the seasonal transitions are already occurring. The leaves are beginning to change color, the outside temperature has dropped below the melting point of gallium, and the kids are back at school. Yes, summer vacation has come to an end, and so too has that perennial scourge known as summer reading. As you can probably guess from that last sentence, I have no great love for the loathsome chore, but let's not put the cart before the horse. I'm not here today to color your beliefs with my own. I'm here seeking answers to a question, and my question is simply this. What's the point of summer reading? The idea used to be that it was just to keep kids reading over the summer, because we all know that if you don't force a child to read for 3 months, their brain will atrophy and drop down their foramen magnum. This measurable drop in academic performance is known as summer learning loss, or the summer slide, and in an effort to prevent it, when I was in elementary and early middle school, we were allowed to pick whatever books we wanted for summer reading, provided that they were an appropriate length and reading level. I still have fond memories of camping out on a piece of playground equipment with My Side of the Mountain or an installment of the Captain Underpants collection when this was the case. But then, somewhere along the line, things changed. The years which followed are difficult for me to recall. In fact, it's quite likely that I've repressed most of my memories of middle school, because I believe that it's just a holding pen until your hormones balance out. You see, you can't put middle schoolers with elementary school kids. They will eat them. You also can't put them with high schoolers, because the high schoolers will only put up with their relative immaturity for about a week before organizing a mass cull of the 14 and under demographic. Due to these preteen traumas, I don't remember much, but I do remember one year being given a little pamphlet with a list of about a dozen books on it, and I had to pick 3 for summer reading. I don't know if this is because they were all thematically linked to what the English teachers wanted to discuss the next year, or if it was just so they could be sure that we were reading appropriate books. I do remember that by the time I got to high school, there were no options left. They just looked at what English class you were going into and told you which books you had to read. For 10th grade, I had to read a couple books, including East of Eden, which is so thick that in the words of my English teacher that year, you could kill someone with it. For those of you who don't know, East of Eden is over 600 pages, and the first third is largely irrelevant to the rest of the story. Whenever I tried to read it, I'd get through about a page before finding myself staring out the window and thinking, what a lovely day, I think I'd rather go for a walk instead. I once even had this thought during a torrential downpour. That's how dense this book is. It got even worse the next year. Our junior year summer reading assignment was An Ordinary Man, The Kite Runner, and The True Story of Hansel and Gretel. I wouldn't recommend any of these besides maybe Hansel and Gretel, and for those of you who weren't forced to read them, they're books about genocide, war and rape, and genocide, war and rape. Because that's exactly the sort of stuff your average 16-year-old wants to take to the beach for some light reading. Can you imagine the conversations they would create at the family 4th of July barbecue? Hey champ, we're about to get a game of badminton going. You want to be my partner? Sorry, but I gotta get through this book. Must be a real page-turner. What's it about? Ethnic cleansing? Oh. It was roughly around this period that I realized summer reading was no longer about keeping kids reading during the summer. Now, because so much is expected of English teachers, they cannot possibly fit the entire curriculum into one semester anymore, and so they front-load students with the assignments that will take the most time. This isn't a personal attack on them, though. Far from it. In fact, some of my best friends are English teachers. Tongue-in-cheek social satire aside, I reached out to one of them with whom I shared many language arts classes throughout our middle and high school careers, and I asked for his thoughts on the subject, both as a former student and now as a current teacher. Considering that he's my close friend with similar lived experiences, it probably won't surprise you to learn that his thoughts are pretty much in sync with mine. We both agree that while it can be helpful to have some sort of broadly academic goal to work towards over the estival hiatus, being assigned the books to read pushes it firmly into the realm of a repugnant chore. The last books I was ever supposed to read for school were for English 103 in my freshman year of college. I was assigned Twilight Los Angeles, 1992, An Unfinished Score, A Streetcar Named Desire, and the Universal Baseball Association, Inc., J. Henry Waugh, proprietor. I read about half of Twilight LA, a quarter of An Unfinished Score, the first scene of Streetcar, and didn't even bother trying with the last book. I just paid very good attention during in-class discussions and received an overall A for the course despite it all. After that course was finished, though, I found myself tearing through books left and right at a pace unmatched since I was in elementary school, albeit with much thicker books. For example, I read all of The Fellowship of the Ring and a big chunk of The Two Towers in just over a week in the following summer. Just last year alone, I polished off my Lovecraft anthology, my Sherlock Holmes anthology, Sir Terry's Watch and Death series, and the entirety of The Count of Monte Cristo, which, in the words of my English teacher, is thick enough to kill someone with. Why is it that I struggled to get through East of Eden in 3 months, but I breezed through a novel more than twice as long in 4 short weeks? The obvious answer is that it's because the latter is a book I actually wanted to read. Without the omnipresent burden of assigned reading, I was able to return to a pace I hadn't known in over a decade, because elementary school was the last time I did much reading for pleasure. Between about the 5th grade and my sophomore year of college, whenever I'd want to do any pleasure reading, there was other reading I was supposed to do for school first, but usually didn't. Not that you could tell from the grades I got on all those papers I BS'd, which gets me to my big point. Summer reading used to be to encourage kids to read, but it became just another homework assignment kids don't want to do, and in many cases, they won't. When you turn something into work, you take away the fun, and if it isn't fun, who wants to do it? I'd like to believe that kids are often better than they're given credit for. Some just don't want to read, full stop, but others still enjoy it as a hobby. They'll keep reading throughout the summer, even if you don't force them, and you can't force the kids who weren't going to read anyway. The real issue doesn't lie with the kids, though. It lies with the schools front-loading them with homework. You can't blame the students for that, but you can't blame the teachers who are making the assignments either. They're just playing the hands they've been dealt, and you can't blame the school system or its administrators for the same reason. I wish I had an elegant solution to the problem, but I don't. I can't just say reduce the curriculum, because that'll never happen, and schedules are packed enough as it is. If you've got any brilliant ideas, I'm all ears and fully prepared to forward them to my friends on the inside, so drop them in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have a happy autumn.